Live from our studios in Kokumlimle, this is Joy News Prime. I am Emefa Apawu. Coming up, GPRTU drivers in KEA suspend activities in protest of increases in fuel prices. We hear similar concerns from the Northeast region as well.
There's nothing that you go into the magazine to buy and there's no increment on it. So when you take the money from the terminal and you move out to the fuel pump station, my brother, you won't laugh.
What's the situation in the Greater Accra region? We have a live interaction from Circle. And meanwhile, there's mounting pressure on government by the minority to cushion Ghanaians in the face of the escalating fuel prices.
That was selling at 6.5 CD per litre has now increased by 300%. The president says he's going to look for cheaper oil. From where?
Also, 11 witnesses, multiple videos and audios. Attorney General's office expresses readiness for Aisha Wong trial to commence as it complies fully with court orders to make evidence available. I'll tell you more. Also, balancing ethical choices in the midst of the harsh economic conditions. The story of how journalists feel the pinch but must still remain professional.
I think you did a good job covering COVID without putting yourself in the story. Same with the economic crisis. The measure of your professionalism is that you can take yourself out of the story, even if you feel affected.
Much later, Ghana Police Service commences probe into social media comments by dancehall artist Shatawale on the death of artist manager Fennec Ochre. Details shortly. And at the top of the hour 8, we have Prime Business with Pius Kojobaka.
And in business, price of cooking oil to surge further following the exportation of raw soya beans.
The whole thing is that you need to put in capital to be able to get the processing going. The capital injection is not there.
Sports is at 8:30 with Musbao.
Former Black Stars goalkeepers trainer Richard Ole Kingston is optimistic that the team can go beyond the quarterfinals in Qatar.
I'm sure that we are going to win the trophy, but I am hoping that we will go more than the quarterfinals, so that Richard Kingston as the goalkeepers trainer will set a new record.
Joy News Prime is live on DSTV channel 421, Go TV channel 144. We're on myjoyonline.com and all our social media platforms. This is your home of independent, fearless, and credible journalism. More reason why you ought to stay for details. How's the journey to and from work today? Let's talk about it, starting from the central region, where drivers in the Komenda Edina Egwafu Ebrim municipality of the central region on Wednesday suspended their activities in protest of the increases in fuel prices. According to the drivers, the operational cost has increased as a result of the fuel prices and failure. And until Ghana Private Road Transport Union increases the fares, they won't move their vehicles. There's more in this report.
It's early Wednesday morning, and some drivers in the Komenda Edna Egwafu Ebrim municipality won't simply move their vehicles. They have been protesting against the fuel price hikes. The protests left many passengers stranded. They couldn't get vehicles to their various destinations. The drivers say they are running at a loss and they can't incur more losses.
Baby load kwano in and out no. Oh yeah, 48 cities. The baby load kwano so petrol 1 gallon na ya de ko ya de ba. Na sisa petrol 1 gallon no oh yeah 1 city. 82 city. Into the 82 city. Say load kwa na ya ba yeah 40.
We spent 1 gallon of fuel, that's now 82 Ghana cedis, on a journey that cost us 82 Ghana cedis. We can't use 1 gallon of fuel on this journey, and that's why we want the GPRTU to help increase the fare for us.
Now, what to fare no more there now? What the man?
The fare to Aguna will not help us in any way. We incur a huge cost on such a journey. We don't get our fuel money back if we move the car from Aguna and back. If we don't increase the fare, we will continue incurring losses. The reason why we are not going to work is that we don't want to charge the fares without approval. The reason why we are not working is that the price of petrol is really high. When you buy it, you are unable to break even.
In 11 kilometers. If you are kilometers, you can. And you know, some and crowd, but the Miscan. It's a pay the Miscan, but I'm a Biata today. Yamina, young pay Mississippi. I'm coming yesterday, check out 1
We want to increase our fares. We want to charge 10 Ghana cedis from Atabazi Junction to Aguna, and from Aguna to Edna, and from Aguna to Edna, we want to charge 15 Ghana cedis. That's why we are demonstrating.
15 cedis. Yes. And that's why we demonstration. But I say I want to one lorry frame ride from 6 cities to 7 cities. Then say we play what to me. That's say you I say what to. I'm telling you to. No petrol. I'm going 65. 65 one lorry frame ride. You do. I make 2% me you too. If this is here, I check this here. I say what petrol. I check no 81. It's a petrol no. Petrol you father me 81 petrol in 2 for you. That's what I'm petrol that's what I say.
The drivers want the Ghana Private Road Transport Union to increase the fares to alleviate them from their suffering. The Ghana Police Service intervened to ensure order.
So that's the situation in the KEA municipality. Well, in the Northeast region, the chairman of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, Alhaji Mutalawuni, has said that the transport business in the region is folding up due to the high cost of fuel in the country. He said the transport business in the region is in a deadly spiral and could collapse anytime soon if urgent steps are not taken to control and stabilize the prices of fuel at the pump. He's been speaking to my colleague Ilyas Tanko.
Fuel prices at the local pumps have shot up again, with petrol and diesel now trading at an average 16.9 Ghana cedis and 17.99 Ghana cedis respectively. These products at the beginning of the year were trading at an average 6.9 and 7 Ghana cedis per litre respectively. The sharp depreciation of the Ghana cedi against the US dollar also means an increase in the prices and cost of vehicle parts and maintenance. The impact of the situation has been far-reaching as it contributes significantly to the current rising cost of goods and services on the market. For the chairman of the GPRTU in the Northeast region, the constant upward adjustment in fuel prices is more than worrying.
There's nothing that you go into the magazine to buy and there's no increment on it. So when you take the money from the terminal and you move out to the fuel pump station, my brother, you won't laugh. Everything remains there. And at the end of the day, you can't, a driver cannot. Let me just set an example. If you are traveling from Nalero here to Tamale, what you are going to take, when you go into the fuel pump and come out, you can't go home with it, even 100 Ghana cedis.
He says the situation is a threat to the survival of the young transport business in the region, as according to him, some vehicle owners and drivers are leaving the transport space.
So the government should come out to help us reduce the fuel, because many of them have packed their vehicles. Because when you go and come, you don't earn anything. So sometimes it is better you pack. Parts have increased. And when you go to talk, then they will tell you duty to have been increased. So the government should come out. The nuisance taxes we are complaining of, they should try to remove them so that things will move smoothly for us. Without that, it will lead to the collapse of our business.
Some commercial drivers agree with the grim prediction of the GPRTU chairman, saying in addition to the risk of losing their jobs, the high cost of fuel is affecting their earnings.
To me, personally, I see that the Ghana economy is collapsed. It's not it's going to collapse or collapse. No, it has already been down. So when I go back to Ghana, I'll buy like 600 Ghana cedis. You understand? So how much do you think it will be left for me? It's not making sense. So I think if the government is not coming out with something to help us, we better pay the cars that we're running for loss.
I used to spend 600 Ghana cedis on fuel from here to Tamale. Now it's about 1,200 Ghana cedis. After taking out 1,200 cedis from 1,800 and bribing the police, we are almost left with nothing. The government must help us. In this region, motorbikes are generally the main means of transport, in addition to tricycles or motorcades that are mostly used commercially in urban communities like Nalirugu, the regional capital. The rising fuel prices, however, have compelled drivers of these commercial tricycles to stop buying from authorized pump stations and now depend on smuggled fuel from neighboring Togo and Burkina Faso. The drivers say the smuggled fuel is often contaminated and causes damage to their motorcycles. Hence, they want urgent reduction at the pumps.
5-star.
This mini 5-star bottle of fuel now sells at 10 Ghana cedis. This is alarming, and the government has to do something about it. I'm sure the economy could collapse before the year ends. We might have to pack our motorbikes and walk. So my appeal is that our leaders must take it easy on us. There's already enough suffering here. We are already hungry and poor. So they should reduce the prices. The prices of fuel are high and affect our operations. We need the urgent assistance of the government. From Nalirgu, Ilyasu Tanko reporting for Joy News.
Now let's check out the situation in the Greater Accra region. My colleague Samuel Kujo-Brace is standing by with some of the people mentioned in the town there who've just gone by. They've been raising concerns. Brace, where are you reporting from and what's the situation there?
Emefa, I'm in the Circle of Donor station, and look, a lot of people are here looking for transport to get to their various places. Before we set up this discussion point, I met some two passengers who were telling me that from here to Kwelebu, which they can walk, the fare is 5 cedis 50 pesos, and they disagreed. They were wondering how this short distance could cost this much. And they were sitting on the bench behind us, wondering why it has gotten to this point. But I have with me some drivers and passengers to try to, understand the situation well from their perspective. Chief, baby no, ebimu ankwejuma. If he said, "Anyoma no nko yomusufu ni atumudodo." Monso amo anu ne say.
We say ebimu anyama ntuma ankwejuma. But was because of this year, the way fuel no AC akosro no. Yen so the way I won say yen so we say yen so to emma fe no emu esu ekosro. Because yen to yen koto fuel almost Ghana plus. Na bia yen fe meje say yen me fe meje say bia sia ne say. Enti mu a yen ma isi koso no o won say you bia so bituma ka say e bia fiti am kokolebo no. First na amutuasi ya. This year akosro yen te say first no. Enti onipa no yes ano a na dwuma sam so ebe yisuro kakra amano. Enti ne omo amontum bia amontum amankwa adwuma no eye lolo fe 74 ya akọ so dinta mama san kofo no amontum omo bebere ntum amankwa adwuma no because I say you bia so na bia na dwuma oye no akotetu me koso sa obu ho akoye ebia normal edwuma bia e ba day bia ono so bia kakra na so bia kakra no so de ka no ba for ka na se wakasa fe na ti se na e san so ha adwene ebia ono so meken so mofra ne na de wo fi a ono ampo ne bia o hwe mofra ne bia be ma no kwampo no ontumi mboa no ono no hwe mofra ne in terms of school sem na de na se BBC akose na e san so a e ha adwene
nti even how na other brawo as a driver
Mrs. Yano, or other blame, I say, Yano, Kaonano, first be I say, Sabia, or say, be a Miamano. Yes, and also, or I expect his eyes can be. And I just a map particular, so yes, me Punkran was there, Memory Metiska. This Yano, because a Jumano passengers from Mumba. Among into Bessin and Quapuna. Adam Musu may have been a tomb that Mekauna, Nebuka also made some near Manoso. And this is a problem. It is a name who is a way of 400 years. I'm on Shamaye. Na Amboyenia.
So he is basically saying that the increment in fuel has brought about increment in the fares. And sometimes when you communicate that to the passengers, some scuffle of a sort ensues. And what it's even, impacting on their business is that they are not able to make the daily sales the car owners are looking for. And it's become a problem. They are not even able to make enough so that they could take care of their families. And that's how this is impacting them. He says the passengers are not even coming as they used to come in those days. Chairman, what's your driver? Nekosu, you want to say?
Nekosu, no, me want to say, I'm on a more item, because times ago, you thought for no, it be had my to me, I could share your number. But now, even a year, so a driver will park also station to station. Want to me just 500 Ghana a year. See for
a year, want to me 500 Ghana.
Yes, I'm telling you, because if for January, they started to increase the fuel from January. They increase. Anytime they will increase the fuel, the car owners they will increase the daily sales. At the same time, the station will increase the ticket for us. So it means that we are not happy. We are feeling bitter in our work. And what I'm feeling bitter for those people, you are the musician. What they increase the fuel, you know, come out to ask her why would I work for? But it's not make an answer. I say mutuma muba. I was I took from Kwamba Zambaya Ayajumano. Because there are too many to me. But imagine what got to their high, now but time will be low. What can I say when your profit? Until Slabano, now medical to me, MPP 100%. Maybe was on go station, the family and I. Maybe PI MPP. Until Slabano, say finance minister, stand a majority leader, then in penny for say, San economy no to me to Tunino. Oh, you know, not be full from la, then just say, but your money here, because your money here, your money has to share. Ghana, no, MPP, your party has to be a patriotic. As a patriotic person, always have to speak the truth. Because I go for the Obano, then himself, you're needing to hear buy. But send your OC, and I'm on to know.
All right. So as you heard from him, you cannot buy fuel at a higher price and sell at a cheaper price. He means that then pick passengers by taking the same old fares, which is of course is akin to you buying something at a higher price and selling to people at a lower price. He's calling on government to do something about this situation. Chairman, also your driver. Near Kosi, they're kind of also affected any senior
my brother, you know something. Fuel is something, anytime you attach it, you see, there is everything, the price of everything will change. That one is definitely. But I can't go and buy the fuel at the filling station at a high price and come and work and collect 2 citizens. No. If I do that, how can I get a different money to go and buy another one? So we are pleading to the government. And then this thing, what you can the leaders, so that they should sit down and think about the fuel, this thing, what do you call it, the price. Because the moment you attach the fuel, the price of everything will change. So we are praying to government to do something about the fuel pricing. Otherwise, I think sometimes the Ghana will sink.
But it was just recent that 19% increment was agreed for you. Isn't that enough?
No, it's not enough. Actually, 20% is good.
So you are calling for another increment, is that it?
Right now, if you say we are calling for another increment, I think the passengers will beat us. So we will manage this one.
That's fine. But some people in some other areas have said that they cannot continue working, you know, because of what's happening. For you in this area, is this something you're also contemplating, that because of how expensive fuel is, we might also want to lay down our tools and not work? Is that something that has come to mind?
It's true, because these days, if you are working, you will go back home with empty hand. You see, even though if you don't, God don't come in, if your car will not satisfy, you won't get. You see, so that is the problem we are facing now. So if government don't come in and do something about the fuel, particularly, oh, my brother, that one there, I think, unless we go back to our village, our various places, and whether we go and do farmer or a different job, and that one, if the time comes, then God will tell.
So I have a passenger here. You are a passenger. How is the increment in fuel affecting your daily expenses?
Yo, me da say, me fa kwanya we so amanato abamu mpanimfo ene ya papa na nado. Say the way eniama ekoso no ye ni nye ho. Na nso no akwaye te say bibia ni wonu ma ye betimi aye. Enti sa kwanya we no ana ye beka because enam ne wo ka say me fa ka anopa no ekọ Accra New Town me kọ na 360 pesos. Afi me sign for car a me ba almost new fare no 5 cedis. Enti na em wawa na nso ye nyina ya wo Ghana ha enim de wa eniama den ekoso. Enti me bisa say other countries no to say Togo ene we mu na o matwa ehu ahia no sa na omo nso omo face wo omo no ma na eno Nigeria ni bi enemy di nkomo ka cha me say wa resign afra adumam because of Ghana economy no the way is say aduro no, because you say no oil expenses more than the income ahead eba. It is say what honom na say a day aduana wo bedi wo be check ni nyina na boso me be so be keka bom na say no momo so chen aduma wo ye de a ene na no obi a oto no onye aduma kura mpo no emfa so so na so say sie no say yampanifo no begina TV so a enam say ahokyera yen ye fam no omo mu hu bi enti omo ba ka de omo pe e de akire say yenya abotre yese na sanka omo edi omo asole na bia okofro car ne sika nyina 10 cedis ni aka kire ne say okọ bia e ha to Accra 5 cedis no check ade okọ akoye no na say ebeka ne 5 cedi ene de ne 10 cedi no de okọ na say nso a ono anko behu say that here.
So he is also saying that things are difficult in terms of because of the increment in fuel prices. That he joined a car this morning, he paid around 3 cedis. When he was returning, he had to pay more than what he paid earlier, and he feels that it was as a result of the increment in the fuel prices. Something needs to be done. He says his friend told him that he has resigned from his workplace because when he does his calculation, whatever he's given at the end of the month, he saves nothing. It really does not make up for the sort of work he's doing, and therefore he has resigned. He thinks that it is better to stay home than to keep working. He wants the managers of the economy to do something about the situation.
That's my colleague Samuel Kojobrace. They're reporting from the Odona lorry station here in Accra. Well, there's mounting pressure on government to cushion Ghanaians in the face of the escalating fuel prices. Well, prices of fuel have gone up multiple times this week alone. Speaking to journalists, minority spokesperson on energy, John Jinapo, said government has been making supernormal profit from the rising prices of crude on the international market and must use that to cushion the Ghanaian consumer. Parliamentary correspondent Kwekwa Sante has more.
In his address on Sunday, President Akufo-Addo admitted that the cost of fuel has reached intolerable levels. But the minority say government must do more than just talking to alleviate the plight of Ghanaians.
Fuel that was selling at 6.5 CD per litre has now increased by 300%. In less than 1 year. the price of fuel at the pump has increased by more than 300%. This government is making so much money from the Ukraine-Russian war. In the 2022 budget, government projected that it will receive a total amount of about 6 billion for the whole of 2022. That is what was projected in the budget. Today, as we speak, from the PIAC report, in less than 3 months, and I mean just 1 quarter, government has received over 8 billion cedis from our petroleum resources. So in 3 months, government has received more than it projected for the whole year.
John Jinapor described as wishful thinking an announcement by the president that government was working to secure affordable fuel for the Ghanaian market, questioning where they will get that from.
And the president says he's going to look for cheaper oil. From where?
From APAM.
And he did not even give us timelines. These wishful thinkings would not solve the problem. The only thing that will solve it is a practical way, and we have enumerated steps that the president can take in order to address the challenge that we are going through.
Diesel is now selling for some 23 cedis, according to some OMCs, whilst petrol is hovering around 18 cedis. Already, experts are warning the price could go up even further and that the woes of Ghanaians could deepen. The ordinary Ghanaian petroleum consumer is looking up to government to cushion them, if not employing some subsidies to help restore some sort of sanity on the oil market. For Joy News, Kweku Asante, Parliament House, Accra.
Well, a subsidy on residual fuel oil was announced yesterday that has been temporarily removed. But Head of Economic Regulation at NPA, Abbas Tusanti, is explaining that this will not affect prices at the various fuel pumps because it is only used for manufacturing companies.
In the meantime, the subsidy on RFO should be removed so that they can have access to this product. It's important to note that the alternative product they can use is diesel. As we all know, the cost of diesel is very, very high now. So the industry prefers to pay for the full cost of RFO so they can continue running their factories than not to have the product at all. And that's the reason why we issued that letter indicating that the subsidy we have on residual fuel oil has been suspended in the interim.
He also adds that taking off subsidies will enable the various companies to patronize directly from their suppliers in order to get their fuel timely, rather than losing so much due to the constant delay of payment from the government.
Sustainable to keep the subsidies on RFO because the subsidy we have on it is affecting its supply. The suppliers of these products are refusing to supply the products because the subsidies are not being paid on time. That is one. And also, because the subsidies are not being paid on time, the companies have refused to supply the product. They sell and they are not recovering the full cost, and they are not also getting the subsidy paid to them. And therefore, the industry, the manufacturing industry, has suffered to access this product. This led them to close down their factories, and they have not been producing. So it's been a challenge for them. We've engaged them, and the solution was that to help them to get the product available, it would be better for them to pay the full cost than to not have the product and get their factories running.
Let's take a quick break here on Joy News Prime. Still to come, balancing ethical choices in the midst of the harsh economic conditions. A story of how journalists feel the pinch, but must still remain professional.
But I think you did a good job covering COVID without putting yourself in the story. Same with the economic crisis. The measure of your professionalism is that you can take yourself out of the story, even if you feel affected.
And thanks for staying with us here on Joy News Prime. Let's do some other stories now. And journalists work around the clock to ensure the public is abreast with issues around the country, including the harsh economic climate. In fact, reports on the struggles of Ghanaians in the current economic situation is awash on the various media platforms. But who tells the story of the journalist when the profession demands that we remain objective and neutral? We have been speaking to some journalists who say even though professional ethics demands one to remain loyal, it becomes increasingly difficult to draw the line when there are struggles.
To advise journalists to stay safe or not to be enticed with money because of the crisis in which we are in. It will be very, very difficult. You know, some of the journalists are not being paid. They just go on the field, come and do their reports without anything. They don't even give them money for transport. Sometimes you go to the newsroom, you assign a journalist. There is no car to take the journalists to the event center, hoping that the journalists will come back with the report. It's not easy.
One would have expected that when you're working, you get paid for the amount of work you do. And as a journalist, sometimes because of the desire and the passion to serve, to help disseminate information, and unfortunately, the work, as we all know, doesn't pay much. And at the moment, things have changed as compared to how they were before. I think if you were being paid 300 cedis, 500 cedis, sometimes you could manage for some 2-3 weeks before the next pay comes. But now, you look at transportation, you look at the food you buy and all of those things, it has gone up. The question would be, how do we survive? Right now, survival has become something that if you're not getting support from friends and family, it is difficult to be a journalist.
As journalists, we all know in this country that most of our salaries or our stipends as a take-home, sometimes it's nothing to write home about. It's just a meager thing for us to take home. And so in the face of these current economic issues, as a journalist, what you need to do to also stay afloat with your income and also be in line with the ethics of the profession.
Well, we put the question of neutrality in the midst of struggle. So the former Dean of the School of Information and Communication Studies at the University of Ghana, Professor Audrey Gajepo.
Joy News' Latif Idris on March 27, 2018.
You can give activists voice, but economic crises are complex issues. So there's a global economic crisis. There's a local economic crisis. I'm not sure that it's helpful for journalists to become activists when there are enough activists on this issue, putting pressure, asking that the right thing should be done. COVID affected you, but I think you did a good job covering COVID without putting yourself in the story. Same with the economic crisis. The measure of your professionalism is that you can take yourself out of the story, even if you feel affected by the issues in the story.
So we continue to tell the story. And Ghana's media and freedom of expression scenery some time ago was said to be the safest in Africa. In 2022, however, Ghana ranked 60th globally and 30th in Africa in the RSF's press freedom rankings. A poor showing it is. Media experts say the lack of safety policies and practices in newsrooms has contributed to the worsening situation. Journalist Sanctuary International, an advocacy organization aimed at ensuring the safety of journalists, especially while on the field, has donated combat gear to some selected media houses in Ghana. There's more in the following report.
Joy News' Latif Idris on March 27, 2018 was cruelly beaten nearly to death at the headquarters of the Ghana Police Service. He wasn't beaten by criminals, but by police personnel while covering a protest. For 4 years, he has battled with head injuries sustained on that day, even after treatments both home and abroad. The brutal and shameful attack on Latif is not isolated. A report by the Media Foundation for West Africa on media professionalism and safety of journalists and media houses in Ghana indicated that within the first 5 months of the year, 25 journalists had been attacked physically. to advocate for and ensure that journalists are protected mainly during field works like protests or demonstrations, Lateef Idris has set up the Journalist Sanctuary International. On Wednesday, the organization presented military standard helmets and bulletproof vests to some selected media houses, including the Multimedia Group. Professor Audrey Gajako is a director of the Journalist Sanctuary International.
I'm here with your own Lateef Idrisu. When we watch international news, we see our colleague journalists, when they go out into the battlefield, and battlefield largely defined because it's not only in war zones, but in Lateef's case, for example, a demonstration, they protect themselves to guard against injury. And so Lateef started this initiative, and I'm happy to be one of his directors and supporters to procure protective gear for journalists when they go out into the field.
Lateef Idris hopes other journalists won't suffer what he did.
There are a lot of organizations doing media advocacy. We want to give meaning to the protection of journalists. So apart from the advocacy we'll be doing, this is what we'll be doing in addition, by providing the protective gear that the journalists need to do their work.
Senior editor at Joy News, Fifi Kumsin, accepted the gear on behalf of Joy News.
I wish to say we are very grateful. I'm very grateful for this gesture. Indeed, journalism is not a crime. And the day journalism dies will be the day democracy dies. We believe that the media, and for that matter, journalists here in Ghana, should be able to do their work without being beaten up, without harassment. They should be able to do their work freely.
Head of the political desk at Joy News, Evans Mensah, recounted a horrific scene during a protest years ago.
If those who lived through Kumiperko, I was a kid, but I was part of those who protested. I was sitting with this young man called Ahunu Honga at Adabraka on the wall when the vehicle was rushing through and firing indiscriminately. This young man got a bullet, stray bullet, hit through his chest, fell into the compound of a school and died. And I saw that. I saw the boy die, stray bullet hit him. It could have been a journalist.
Well, the National Media Commission says it's unable to publicly condemn attacks on journalists because of the Commission's mediation role in such matters. The Commission says the lack of interest of some journalists in continuing matters brought before the NMC also contributes to the NMC's inability to resolve such matters completely. Chairman of the Commission, Yabwedu Ayabuafo, raised the concerns at the launch of a journalist support fund and the commemoration of the International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists on Wednesday.
The event was held to raise at least 2 million Ghana cedis to support journalists who face any form of abuse in the line of duty and to commemorate the 10th anniversary of the United Nations Plan of Action on the Safety of Journalists. Commented on why the Commission barely speak on these attacks, Mr. Ibuafo in his address said, publicly condemning the attacks on journalists who put the Commission in a compromised position.
Sometimes when things happen, the expectation from some people is that the Commission will just rush and come and condemn. Yeah, but there are other parties also involved, and sometimes if you do that and the matter comes before you, you disable yourself from objectively looking at the facts of the matter. Now, the additional thing is sometimes the unwillingness of some of our journalists to even complain or make a report to the National Media Commission. And sometimes we have been pleading. The Executive Secretary is around. There has been a particular incident for which we wrote to those individuals involved to brief us, because this is a country of the rule of law. We cannot take any action on impunity, because you cannot fight impunity with impunity. And so you request for information, and this is denied. Now, in the face of denial of information that enables people to make considered and objective judgment, it becomes very, very difficult to deal with some of these matters.
GGA President Albert Kwabena Jomfo also urged the government and other stakeholders to work hard to reclaim Ghana's position on the World Press Freedom Ranking.
The combined effect of the spate of attacks against and rampant arrest of journalists as though they were criminals, as well as the backsliding of Ghana in the World Press Freedom Index, send worrying signals, especially to international media watchers who still regard Ghana as a reference point for press freedom and democracy in Africa. Ghana must now be seen to be working hard to reclaim a position on the World Press Freedom Index. We must not and dare not fall further behind in the league table of free media systems in Africa and the world.
Meanwhile, the Center of Awareness Global Mission, owners of Kwa Herbal Center and the Ghana Police Service have donated 500,000 Ghana cedis and 20,000 Ghana cedis to support the fund.
I wish to commend the leadership of the Ghana Journalists Association for prioritizing the welfare of journalists and establishing the Journalist Support Fund to provide the needed assistance to journalists where they need it most. The police service is happy. At this time, we are in a haste to mention that we are making a token donation of 20,000 our contribution to the fund. It is our prayer that the fund grows bigger over time, so that whenever it matters most, any journalist who requires assistance will be able to access SAFE.
The International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists was inaugurated on 2nd November 2013 by UNESCO to create awareness on violence against journalists. For Joy News, James Kwesi Aveji and Esther Nkrumah's report read to you.
Now let's take a look at our No to Galamsey hashtag campaign. Well, the Attorney General's office says it has 11 witnesses on standby to testify in support of its belief that Aisha Wang has for years engaged in illegal mining. This was disclosed by Director of Public Prosecution Yvonne Atakra Obuobisa, who told an Accra High Court that all evidence that the state has in its possession has been available for lawyers for the Chinese national. Ms. Wang is accused of being a mastermind of various Galamsey activities in the Ashanti region. Court correspondent Joseph Akable joins us via Zoom with further details on this. Joseph, we understand there are some videos and audios the AG intends to rely on as well?
Yes, and we are told that these are videos and audios that will be presented to the court by 11 witnesses. These are individuals, including police investigators and other eyewitnesses, who will be relying on those audios and videos to tell the story. And the story that the state intends to put across is the fact that Aisha Wang is indeed an individual who engaged in the alleged legal mine, not this time, just this time around, but the initial arrest and prosecution, that particular one that was terminated by the state eventually. And so that is what the audio and videos will be representing in terms of the reliance by the 11 witnesses.
And there have been reaction from lawyers for Aisha Wang. What has it been?
In fact, when the judge asked Nkrabi Efadate, the lead counsel for Aisha Wang, whether he had received all those documents, he described them as bulky and one that would take them time to go through. But they were satisfied that at least they have all that they need and ready for the trial to commence.
Okay, well, that's court correspondent Joseph Akable there with details of happenings in the court. But we'll find out subsequently on what's next. But staying on our campaign, communities situated downstream of highly polluted Ofin and the Pra rivers are paying dearly for activities of illegal mining. The main water sources of residents of Beposo, Supomdunkwa, Bokope and Atribwanda, among others in the Shamar district of the Western region, have been destroyed by illegal miners who have pitched camps upstream in Ashanti, Central and Western regions. My colleague Ohiming Teria visited the area and has more in this report.
My trip took me to Atribwanda, a farming community situated downstream of the main Pra River in the Shamar district of the Western region. The mainstay of residents here is crop and vegetable production, fishing and basket weaving. Residents depend on the Pra River for their livelihood as they use water from the stream for household chores, including bathing, irrigating crops and fishing activities. Like Beposo, Supomdunkwao and Bokokope, the community, with a population of about 1,000 residents, is feeling the negative impact of illegal mining activities.
The river has been polluted and its color turned milky.
The Ophir River is a major tributary of the main Pra River, which enters the Gulf of Guinea in nearby Shamar in the western region. At 6 a.m., children, some as young as 2 years, are seen taking their bath in this stream before school. One of them is Andrews Techi, a JHS2 student. As a practice, he and other children in this community take their shower in the stream every morning. This has become a routine for Andrews and many children in this community.
When we wake up, this water that day we come and bath. We don't have water, that is why we came here and bath.
As a first-time visitor, I wondered why these kids would use dirty brownish water from the much polluted Pra River to wash down. It is obvious turbidity in the water is extremely high, above the Environmental Protection Agency's recommended limit. It is common to see Pra and other river bodies affected by illegal mining where harmful chemicals such as mercury are used in this state.
Residents in communities along the River Pra, such as this community, Beposo, Atrebuana and others, say they have been impacted negatively by the activities of illegal miners. River Pra is highly polluted.
Though Talo Ghana in 2016 commissioned a mechanized water project to supply residents of Atrebuana with clean drinking water, residents can no longer get wholesome water for their household needs due to equipment breakdown. They say the problem has persisted for several years. Assemblyman for New Junction Amisa Krombo Kokope electoral area, Alpha Justice Wonche, laments the situation.
Yes, this is the only source of water. From, let's say, 1.5 years, 2 years, they all bath. At this point, early in the morning, you see them, no matter how the weather, if it is even chilled weather or if it is hot weather, this same river that they bath in before going to school.
The practice is impacting negatively on health of residents, especially children. Authorities at the Community Health-Based Planning Services CHIP compound say residents are plagued with malaria, cough, and waterborne diseases such as scabies, diarrhea, and bilharziasis. The assistant headmaster of the local Atrebuana DA Primary NGHS, Kwasia Pierre, revealed school children have been asked not to bath in the stream because of dangers posed by chemicals used in galamsey operations.
We have been fetching this water, we have been drinking it all the time. When the galamsey started the galamsey work, we stopped. We have stopped the children from taking their bath at the riverside because there are some chemicals that galamsey people use, which is affecting them. In fact, it gives them some diseases. If you could observe, plenty of the children have some scars in their hair. It is through this river that they have been taking their bath in.
Unfortunately, that directive is yet to be adhered to by Andrews and several other children who have no alternative water source. The assemblyman, Mr. Wonche, is not only passionate about the situation, but also concerned with the negative impact of illegal mining activities on communities downstream. It is very heartbreaking.
It is very, very, very heartbreaking because there is a saying in Akan proverb, we are not happy with the activities of this galamsey up there, and we are suffering from the consequences of it. We are urging the president and then the MPP government to in fact fast-track things in order to prevent those people in these water bodies.
The challenges of affected communities such as Atrebuana are compounded by flooding. Residents here blame illegal mining operations upstream that have either blocked the waterways or changed the course of the stream. One of the areas affected by the flood is a football pitch, which serves as the main training ground for the under-13 and 17 teams in the community. The community, until now, has been nurturing talents to feed Azakis and other teams.
Behind me is a football pitch. This, until now, serves as home of a football club born and bred in this community called Pra Babies.
The flat means players cannot practice here. One of them is Emefa Apawu Jr.
Yopon school na yabene ababe train. Udu Sunday sa na your coach abene. Yakwa kobo match. That time the man into me and ball. Ted me and ball la udu match na yakwa. Yabosa into me yambo. Still summitry and san you tumne in Konya ball.
This is the only source of recreation center we have in our community here. But look at the activities of the Galamsey that has caused the water to overflow 8 banks to this level.
Former acting district physical education coordinator for Shamar district, Kwesi Apia, says this is affecting the nurturing of players in the community.
It's going to affect them, because we train on the fit.
The impact is directly.
Dr. Anthony Osei-Chumesi is an environmental engineer and a senior lecturer at the Kumasi Technical University. He has published extensively in several international journals on water resource management in Ghana. He warned communities downstreams affected by Galamsey face dire consequences of flooding, water shortage, among others.
The moment you create those pits, you change the course of flow of river in those areas. Now, you have put some impediments, for example, you have put embankments. So it means that all those areas which those embankments are, you are creating artificial flooding. The impact is directly. It's not that maybe because they don't live around the area. They will have these flooding effects.
Residents of Atrebuana, Bokokope, Supom Dungwao and Beposo are banking their hopes on President Akufo-Addo to help change their narrative by putting a stop to illegal mining operations.
If the president and then the MPP government tighten up situations in order to prevent those corrupt people who have been corrupting our environment, who have been causing harm to the water bodies, for us, we will be very happy.
Until government reacts positively, residents can only hope. From Atrebuana in the Shamar district of the Western region, for Joy News, my name is Ohimi Interior.
That's for our No to Galamsey campaign. You can still join the discussion with the hashtag No to Galamsey. Well, the Ghana Police Service has commenced a probe into social media comments by dancehall artist Shatta Wale on the death of artist manager Fennek Otre. Shatta Wale, in a social media post, claimed to have information that his former manager Bulldog's alleged involvement in the murder of the late Fennek Otre. In a statement, the police service said Fennek Otre's death is a case of interest and are of the view that Shatta Wale will be of immense help to them. It continues to say that this new development from Shatta Wale is therefore going to complement our ongoing investigation. We would like to take this opportunity to thank all the families who have been working with the cold case unit since its establishment for their cooperation and understanding. So this is the statement signed by Chief Superintendent of Police, Director Public Affairs, Grace Ansa Akrufi there. So that's the statement from the Ghana Police Service. And that's how we wrap up today's edition of Joy News Prime.